Italy, a nation universally celebrated for its sleek sports cars, its iconic fashion houses, and the culinary artistry of its pizza. But certainly not, by any stretch of the imagination, for its tanks. And yet, against all expectations, the Italians poured decades of relentless effort and a staggering billion Italian lire into the creation of their own main battle tank. A machine that, in the end, not a single nation on Earth, not one, chose to acquire. Even Italy's closest allies politely declined, opting instead for rival designs. How could a country with such a rich engineering heritage, the very birthplace of Leonardo da Vinci, spend nearly 40 years on a vehicle that would become a global symbol of failure in the international arms market? To comprehend this profound paradox, we must journey back to 1945, to a time when Italy lay in ruins, a nation forbidden even to dream of building its own tanks. The close of the Second World War left Italy in a deeply humiliating position. A country that had once harbored ambitions of becoming a great Mediterranean power now found itself on a very short leash, tethered by the victors. The terms of the peace treaty were unequivocal. Italians were expressly prohibited from independently developing or producing heavy armored vehicles. This was a devastating blow, not merely to the nation's industrial capacity, but to its very sense of national pride. Once mighty factories, which had churned out tanks and self-propelled guns for Mussolini's army, now stood silent and desolate, or had been repurposed for the mundane production of civilian goods. Italian generals gritted their teeth in frustration, powerless to change their circumstances. They were forced to accept whatever their newfound Western partners offered. What they received were American M47 Patton tanks, machines that by that point were already beginning to show their age. These vehicles had been designed in the late 1940s, and by the time they reached Italian shores, but there was no alternative, and the Italian army reluctantly integrated them into its ranks. For decades, the country's armored divisions rumbled across the landscape in American steel. Their own engineers could only observe from the sidelines, nurturing a quiet longing for the day they might be permitted to design something truly their own. The 1960s brought a small measure of relief. Italy received approximately 300 M60 tanks, a more modern American design. And here, a tiny breakthrough occurred. Two-thirds of these tanks were assembled by Italians in their own factories, under American license. This was far from a full-fledged indigenous design, but for the first time, Italian engineers finally had the chance to lay hands on a genuine combat machine, to dissect its intricate mechanisms, and to begin accumulating invaluable practical experience. Factory floors hummed back to life, workers mastered new technologies, and designers began to truly understand the complex anatomy of a modern tank. It was a crucial first step, however small, towards future independence. The true turning point, however, arrived in the 1970s, when Otto Melara, Italy's largest heavy weapons manufacturer, stepped onto the scene. The company's leadership managed to negotiate with Western partners. In the aftermath of a global conflict, as nations rebuilt and rearmed, Italy found itself at a critical juncture. Its industrial might, once formidable, now sought new avenues for growth and a modern defense capability. A pivotal decision was made: to embark on a licensed production agreement with the esteemed German concern Krauss-Maffei for their cutting-edge Leopard 1 tanks. The ambition was monumental. The plan called for the assembly of a staggering 1,000 advanced combat vehicles on Italian soil. This was not merely an order, it was a national undertaking, a bid to galvanize Italy's burgeoning post-war industry and elevate its military standing. While the final tally reached only 72% of that audacious target, the achievement itself was nothing short of extraordinary. For the first, and remarkably, the only time in its modern history, Italy had mass-produced contemporary main battle tanks, even if the blueprints bore a foreign stamp. The benefits rippled far beyond mere numbers. Production lines hummed with efficiency, honed to German precision. A new generation of Italian engineers and technicians received invaluable training, immersing themselves in the intricacies of the German design philosophy, a school of thought widely regarded as the finest in the world at that time. They mastered the nuances of advanced metallurgy, complex drivetrain integration, and sophisticated fire control systems. This deep understanding, this intimate knowledge of what made a world-class tank, ignited a powerful, perhaps even dangerous, sense of confidence. It was then that a subtle shift occurred, a collective giddiness born of newfound capability. The leadership at Oto Melara, the Italian industrial giant spearheading the production, began to entertain a seemingly brilliant idea. If they could build German tanks with such proficiency, why not sell them? The international arms market was a lucrative arena, and Italy now possessed the expertise and infrastructure to compete. The vision was clear. Leverage a proven German design, assemble it meticulously in their own state-of-the-art factories, and carve out a significant share of the global market. With this ambitious vision, the Italian delegation approached Krauss-Maffei, seeking permission to export their domestically assembled Leopards. The German response was immediate and chillingly unambiguous. A poorly concealed surprise morphed into a firm, unyielding refusal. Why, the Germans reasoned, would they willingly create a direct competitor for their own flagship product? Krauss-Maffei was already a global leader, effortlessly selling Leopards across continents. To grant Italy export rights would be to cede market share, to undermine their own strategic dominance. The request was denied. The sting of that refusal was profound, a bitter pill of humiliation and a stark reminder of their subordinate position. It was a painful, yet ultimately invaluable, lesson etched into the very fabric of Italy's defense industry. The message was unequivocal. If a nation truly desires to compete on the global stage, if it yearns for true sovereignty in arms trade, it must forge its own path. It must design and build its own tanks. This moment of rejection became the crucible, solidifying a national resolve. Italy would no longer rely on foreign licenses, no more borrowed blueprints, and certainly no more demeaning pleas for export permissions. The nation demanded a fully indigenous main battle tank, a symbol of its technological independence and military pride. The seasoned Italian engineers, tempered by years of meticulously assembling both M60s and Leopards, were now ready. They possessed the accumulated knowledge, the practical experience, and, crucially, the burning desire to prove their nation's capabilities. A long and arduous journey lay ahead, a challenging path that would ultimately culminate in the formidable Ariete tank. But the first critical steps began with an ambitious yet pragmatic project in 1977. Oto Melara's engineers, their resolve hardened by past slights, returned to their drawing boards. Their mission was clear: to demonstrate to the world that Italy could indeed create competitive armored vehicles. If the Germans would not allow them to profit from their Leopards, then Italy would design something of its own, drawing upon the familiar, proven solutions they had so thoroughly mastered. Intriguingly, German engineers, despite the earlier friction, agreed to partner in this new development. The logic, in the often cynical world of defense contracting, was brutally simple. Forbidding the sale of an existing, finished product was one thing. Participating in the lucrative creation of a new design for a substantial fee was quite another. MBAT vehicle. Their goal was to create a tank that would be an analog to the Leopard 1A4 modification, a robust and reliable machine tailored for international sales. The primary target market was strategically chosen: the nations of the Middle and Near East. This was a logical, almost inevitable decision. Throughout the 1970s, the oil monarchies of the Persian Gulf were awash in unprecedented wealth, literally swimming in petrodollars. Their insatiable demand for the latest and most advanced weaponry transformed them into eager buyers, willing to lavish vast sums on any nation capable and willing to sell. The desert nations of the Arabian Peninsula, a crucible of immense wealth and geopolitical ambition, were embarking on an unprecedented military expansion. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and the United Arab Emirates each poured colossal sums into modernizing their armed forces, transforming vast oil revenues into cutting-edge weaponry. This was a market of staggering proportions, a glittering prize for any defense contractor. The Italians, with their renowned industrial might and engineering prowess, were determined to claim their share of this lucrative pie. They envisioned a main battle tank specifically tailored for the unforgiving conditions of the desert, a machine that could thrive where others merely survived. This was no superficial adaptation. Their engineers understood, with chilling clarity, that a tank designed for the temperate, forgiving landscapes of Europe would quickly perish amidst the Arabian sands. The challenges were immense, almost elemental. Fine abrasive dust, ubiquitous and insidious, would choke air filters within mere hours, crippling engines. Air temperatures routinely soared above 50 degrees Celsius, transforming the tank's metal hull into a searing oven, threatening the crew with heat stroke long before any engagement could even begin. To counter these brutal realities, OTO Melara's designers dedicated extraordinary attention to the engine's cooling system, dramatically enhancing its capacity far beyond that of the base Leopard design it drew inspiration from. They integrated advanced, multi-stage air filtration units, engineered for extended operation in a perpetual haze of sand and grit. Crucially, within the combat compartment itself, a full-fledged air conditioning system was installed, a luxury for tanks of that era, a vital necessity for survival in this environment. 4 arduous years were consumed in the meticulous process of conceptual design, the construction of prototypes, and the exhaustive refinement of every component. By 1981, the first production model, designated the OF-40, was finally ready. The Italians harbored colossal hopes for this vehicle. It was a handsome machine, technically sophisticated, and its specifications on paper were genuinely competitive. The executives at OTO Melara practically rubbed their hands together in anticipation, envisioning a torrent of orders from the opulent capitals of the Middle East. Everything, on paper, appeared perfect, but reality, as it so often does, proved mercilessly indifferent. The global arms market is not a simple supermarket where purchasing decisions are made solely on price and performance. It is a labyrinthine world where political alliances, deeply entrenched partnerships, and an unblemished reputation hold far greater sway than any technical specification. And in the specialized realm of heavy tank manufacturing, Italy simply had no established pedigree. Arab generals and defense ministers, accustomed to acquiring battle-proven hardware from undisputed global leaders, looked elsewhere. Their gaze fell upon the American Abrams, the British Challenger, the German Leopard, titans forged in the crucible of Cold War competition. For those seeking a more budget-conscious alternative, the vast inventories of Soviet weaponry were always available. The Italian tank, however expertly adapted for the desert, simply did not fit into this established hierarchy. A perfectly reasonable, yet utterly devastating question echoed through the gilded halls of power. Why invest in an unproven machine from a manufacturer with no combat experience, when for the same expenditure one could acquire a tank with a verifiable history of performance on the battlefield? Ultimately, only one nation expressed concrete interest in the OF-40, the United Arab Emirates. The Emirates placed an order for 36 units, all of which were duly delivered and inducted into service. 36 tanks. That figure barely constitutes a reinforced squadron, certainly not even a full battalion. For a nation that had dared to dream of conquering a significant segment of the world's most lucrative arms market, the outcome was profoundly disheartening. Millions upon millions of lira, invested in years of research and development, had yielded a return that barely registered, a stark testament to the unforgiving nature of a market driven not just by engineering brilliance, but by the immutable forces of politics and prestige. The grand designs for a sweeping market expansion, for a global presence, had, in me, a profound misjudgment. While it never achieved the commercial triumph its architects envisioned, the Italian engineers involved gained something far more invaluable than mere profit. They acquired the crucible-forged wisdom of a complete combat vehicle development cycle. From the very first conceptual sketch drawn on paper, through the relentless grind of prototyping and refinement, all the way to the final delivery of a production-ready model to a discerning client, they navigated every intricate phase. They mastered the delicate art of designing cooling systems robust enough to endure the most punishing, extreme environmental conditions. They assimilated the intricate processes required for the seamless integration of myriad complex components and sophisticated subassemblies. Their hands, once perhaps uncertain, grew seasoned and sure through countless hours of rigorous testing and meticulous fine-tuning. This collective, hard-won expertise became the bedrock, the indispensable foundation upon which any subsequent ambitious endeavor simply could not have been built. The subsequent, pivotal step was already emerging on the horizon. By the mid-1980s, the Italian Ministry of Defense confronted an undeniable, stark reality. The American-made M47 tanks, the backbone of their armored brigades, had irrevocably exhausted their operational lifespan. These machines, relics of the 1940s, were not merely dated, they were hopelessly obsolete, utterly incapable of meeting the brutal, dynamic demands of the contemporary battlefield. The advent of advanced anti-tank guided missiles, sophisticated composite armor, and increasingly potent main armaments had rendered the M47 a vulnerable anachronism. Italy required an entirely new main battle tank, a machine forged for the future, not merely an export curiosity destined for distant desert sheikdoms, but a formidable war machine for its own sovereign defense. The mandate was colossal, brimming with ambition, yet remarkably precise. Forge a tank that would stand shoulder to shoulder with the finest examples of armored prowess within the NATO alliance. To manifest this monumental vision, the Ministry of Defense enlisted two of the nation's industrial titans, the already familiar OTO Melara and the legendary automotive conglomerate Fiat. The division of labor between these giants was both logical and impeccably defined. Fiat's specialists, with decades of experience crafting engines for everything from nimble passenger cars to heavy-duty trucks, assumed responsibility for the vital power plant, the intricate transmission system, and the entire running gear. The engineers at Otto Melara, having amassed an unparalleled wealth of experience in armament design and production, took charge of the formidable hull, the advanced turret, the primary weapon system, and the profoundly complex fire control apparatus. Two Italian colossi, each a master in its domain, merged their formidable capabilities. The wheels of creation began to turn with an almost palpable energy. But before a single line was drawn, before any metal was cut, the Italian teams made a profoundly astute decision. They embarked upon an exhaustive study of the zenith of Western tank design then in existence. Their primary focus, their singular obsession, became the German Leopard 2. This was a machine widely hailed by military experts across the globe as the undisputed gold standard, the very archetype of a modern main battle tank. Italian engineers meticulously deconstructed it, screw by screw, subsystem by subsystem. They analyzed every intricate component, every audacious design choice, every minute detail of its internal architecture and external configuration. Their objective was not a slavish imitation of the German masterpiece. Instead, they sought to penetrate the underlying engineering philosophy, to grasp the profound logic behind each technical solution, to discern the optimal path forward. Their aim was to extract the very best elements, to understand their essence, and then to ingeniously adapt them to Italy's specific strategic requirements and unique operational doctrine. The culmination of this intensive research, this unprecedented collaboration, and this newfound expertise arrived in 1986. The very first prototype of this new tank, christened with the proud and powerful name Ariete, meaning battering ram in Italian, was unveiled to the public. It was a moment of national pride, a testament to resilience, and a powerful statement of intent. From the ashes of an unfulfilled export dream, from the quiet accumulation of hard-won knowledge, Italy had forged a new champion. The OEF-40, once seen as a commercial disappointment, had, in fact, laid the essential groundwork, providing the very intellectual and practical capital needed to conceive and construct a vehicle worthy of its proud new name, a true battering ram for the modern age. For 2 grueling years, a select fleet of advanced prototypes embarked on an unforgiving odyssey. These machines were thrust into a crucible of trials, pushed to their absolute limits across vast proving grounds, enduring every imaginable climatic extreme. From the searing heat of sun-baked deserts to the bone-chilling grip of Arctic frosts, from the suffocating humidity of dense jungles to the treacherous inclines of rugged mountains, no environment was spared. Their intricate running gear was relentlessly hammered over unforgiving, broken terrain. The main armament, a formidable 120mm cannon, roared to life countless times, its projectiles tearing through the air at varying distances, each shot a test of precision and power. Simultaneously, sophisticated electronics and critical protection systems were subjected to rigorous scrutiny, designed to expose any weakness, any flaw, under conditions mirroring the brutal realities of combat. The sheer scale and intensity of these tests were unprecedented, a true testament to the ambition driving this project. When the dust finally settled, the verdict was clear. The prototypes had not merely performed, they had excelled, passing every single trial with a resounding success that ignited a spark of profound hope. But what precisely was this armored behemoth, this machine of war, from a purely technical standpoint? Its internal architecture adhered to a design philosophy long favored by Western tank manufacturers, a configuration proven reliable through decades of conflict. The driver occupied the forward section of the hull, nestled within the armored shell, his eyes scanning the horizon through vision blocks. Directly behind, at the heart of the machine, lay the fighting compartment, a compact yet highly efficient space where the crew operated their complex systems. The engine, the very pulse of the tank, was securely housed in the rear, providing both propulsion and an additional layer of protection. A crew of 4 highly trained individuals commanded this formidable vehicle. The commander, the tactical brain; the gunner, the precision instrument; the loader, the relentless provider of firepower; and the driver, the master of terrain. Each member played a vital, interconnected role, their lives intertwined within the steel shell. The primary argument, the defining feature of this machine, was its 120mm smoothbore cannon. Developed by the renowned Italian firm Otto Breda, this colossal weapon was a statement of raw power. Crucially, its breech design was engineered to be identical to that of the legendary German Rheinmetall L-44 gun. This meticulous design choice carried immense strategic weight. It guaranteed full compatibility with NATO standard ammunition, a critical advantage for interoperability and logistical flexibility across Allied forces. The tank carried a formidable combat load of 42 rounds, a generous supply designed to sustain prolonged engagements without the immediate and often dangerous necessity of resupply. Complementing this devastating main gun were two 7.62 mm machine guns. One was precisely coaxial with the main cannon, allowing the gunner to engage soft targets and personnel with rapid, accurate fire. The second, a versatile weapon, was mounted on the turret roof atop a pintle mount, offering the flexibility to be positioned near either the commander's or the loader's hatch, providing crucial close-in defense and anti-personnel capabilities against threats from any direction. Defense, however, extended beyond direct firepower. On both flanks of the turret, a quartet of 80 mm smoke grenade launchers stood ready. These were not merely passive defenses. Should the tank be painted by an enemy laser designator, the chilling precursor to an incoming guided missile or shell, an automated system would instantly unleash a dense, opaque smokescreen. This sudden, blinding cloud would shroud the tank, momentarily erasing it from the enemy's view, buying precious seconds for evasive maneuvers or repositioning in a critical moment. Yet, perhaps the most remarkable aspect, the true jewel in the crown of this engineering marvel, was its fire control system. This sophisticated network of sensors, computers, and optics granted the crew an almost uncanny ability to engage targets with pinpoint accuracy while the tank was in motion, a revolutionary capability for its era. Day or night, through driving rain or swirling dust, the system remained unwavering, ensuring the tank's lethality in virtually any condition. The commander, from his elevated position, surveyed the battlefield through panoramic combined sights, offering a 10-power magnification and the seamless ability to switch between crystal-clear daylight vision and advanced night modes. The gunner, the ultimate arbiter of destruction, had his primary periscopic optical sight housed securely within an armored cupola, protecting its delicate components from the ravages of combat. For the deepest shadows of night combat, both commander and gunner shared a common thermal imaging sight. This cutting-edge sensor possessed the astonishing capability to detect a target as small as 2.2 meters at a distance of 1.5 kilometers, piercing the veil of darkness and revealing hidden threats with chilling clarity. By the standards of the 1980s, these were undeniably respectable characteristics, defining a capable, modern fighting machine, even if they were not always considered truly groundbreaking. The Ariete's armor protection represented a masterful blend of traditional strength and emerging technology, a formidable combination of high-hardness steel plates and advanced composite materials. The frontal aspect of the turret, in particular, presented a distinctive profile, characterized by a steeply sloped array of armor plates. This angular design, reminiscent of the British Challenger 1 and the American Abrams, was not merely aesthetic. It was a deliberate engineering choice, designed to maximize the effective thickness of the armor and induce ricochets, deflecting incoming projectiles away from the vital crew compartment. The precise specifications of this complex armor were, and remain, a closely guarded secret. But whispers from classified reports suggested its frontal protection could confidently withstand the impact of a 105 mm armor-piercing discarding sabot round, a testament to its formidable defensive capabilities against many contemporary threats. Along the flanks of both the hull and the turret, additional anti-cumulative screens were affixed, designed to disrupt the penetrating jets of shaped-charge warheads. Beyond ballistic and kinetic threats, the tank was engineered to provide its crew with comprehensive protection against the insidious dangers of nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare, a grim necessity in the strategic landscape of its time. From its relentless testing to its intricate internal workings, from the thunder of its main gun to the silent, automated deployment of its smokescreen, the Ariete emerged as a formidable contender, a testament to the relentless pursuit of battlefield dominance, a machine born from the crucible of ambition and designed for the unforgiving theater of war. Deep within its armored shell, a sophisticated fire suppression system stood ready, a silent guardian against the inferno of battle. The very heart of this machine pulsed with the power of a V-shaped, 12-cylinder diesel engine, an engineering marvel generating a formidable 1,300 horsepower. This immense force translated into an exceptional power-to-weight ratio, 24 horsepower for every ton of its mass. An advanced automatic transmission seamlessly managed this power, offering 4 forward gears and 2 in reverse, a testament to its agility. This 54-ton behemoth, defying its colossal weight, could surge from a standstill to 30 kilometers per hour in a mere 6 seconds. Its maximum cruising speed on paved highways reached an impressive 65 kilometers per hour, a velocity that belied its formidable presence. Yet, beyond raw power and speed, the designers harbored a distinct source of pride: its remarkable maintainability. The complete replacement of both engine and transmission, a task of monumental complexity in lesser vehicles, could be accomplished in less than 1 hour. For a tank of such advanced class, this was an unparalleled metric of operational efficiency, a critical advantage in the chaos of sustained combat. With a fuel range extending 550 kilometers, the machine was built for endurance. Its capabilities extended far beyond flat terrain. It could effortlessly traverse trenches 3 meters wide, scale vertical obstacles a full meter in height, and navigate water obstacles up to 1.2 meters deep, all without any preliminary preparation. This was a vehicle designed not just for battle, but for relentless, unyielding advance across any landscape. The year 1989 marked a moment of profound triumph for Italian tank manufacturing. The nation's own army placed a substantial order for the nascent Ariete tanks, a clear vote of confidence in domestic innovation. Then, unexpectedly, Spain joined the fold, seeking to replace its own aging armored fleet. The combined orders swelled to a staggering 600 units. This figure, 600 tanks, sent a thrill through the executive suites of Otto Melara and Fiat, a number so vast it promised to keep production lines humming for years. It meant thousands of secure jobs, a stable influx of capital, and an unprecedented era of prosperity for the Italian defense sector. For the first time in its post-war history, Italy's defense industry stood on the precipice of genuinely large-scale tank production. The long years of perceived humiliation, the dependence on foreign licenses, the frustrating failures in the export market, all seemed poised to recede into the past, finally. A new dawn had broken. Then, the Berlin Wall fell. On the 9th of November, 1989, mere months after those monumental orders were placed, the world shifted on its axis, irrevocably. The Cold War, that decades-long geopolitical glacier that had held Europe in an icy grip of tension, was rapidly melting. The Soviet Union, once an unyielding adversary, was consumed by a deep internal crisis. The Warsaw Pact, once a formidable alliance, began to fracture. The specter of a massive tank offensive through the Fulda Gap, a threat that Western generals had used to galvanize politicians for decades, simply. Across Europe, governments began to slash their military budgets with unprecedented haste. Billions previously earmarked for defense were redirected towards social programs and vital economic reforms. The question echoed through parliamentary halls: why spend fortunes on tanks when there was no longer anyone to fight? Italy, caught in this global tide, proved no exception. The nation's military budget underwent severe contraction, and the first programs to feel the axe's brutal bite were, predictably, the ambitious tank initiatives. The Italian army, once so enthusiastic, this represented a staggering two-thirds reduction from what the manufacturers had so optimistically anticipated. It was a painful blow, a deep cut into their newfound prosperity. Yet, devastating as it was, it still paled in comparison to the Spanish response was far more brutal. They simply canceled their Ariete order entirely. The Spanish Ministry of Defense, after careful consideration of its strategic needs and a thorough assessment of the international arms market, made a decision investing in an unproven Italian tank. Madrid chose a different path. Instead of acquiring the untested C-1 Ariete, a machine still seeking its combat credentials, the Spanish government struck a deal with Germany. They opted to lease a fleet of German Leopard 2 main battle tanks, specifically the A4 variant. This move was not merely a procurement decision, it was a profound statement, a vote of no confidence delivered on the global stage. The logic underpinning Spain's choice was brutally pragmatic. Why embrace the inherent risks of a brand new vehicle, one with no history of performance in actual conflict, when a battle-hardened, globally respected alternative was readily available from a world leader in armored warfare? The Leopard 2 A4 offered not just raw power, but a proven track record of reliability, a robust supply chain for spare parts, and seamless interoperability with NATO allies. It promised a well-established training infrastructure, a complete ecosystem of support that the nascent Ariete simply could not match. For Italy's burgeoning defense sector, this was a devastating, unequivocal lesson. The cutthroat world of international arms sales leaves no room for sentimentality, no space for the warm glow of Allied solidarity. Here, cold, calculating pragmatism reigns supreme, dictated by performance metrics, cost-effectiveness, and, above all, an unblemished reputation forged in the crucible of real-world operations. The loss of the Spanish contract was a significant blow, not just financially, but to the very prestige and perceived competence of Italian engineering. Despite this catastrophic reduction in potential orders, the production of the Ariete still moved forward, albeit under a heavy cloud. In 1992, the C-1 Ariete was formally adopted into service by the Italian Army. Yet, the journey from official acceptance to widespread deployment proved painfully slow. Serial assembly did not commence until 1995, a 3-year delay that hinted at underlying challenges in funding, industrial capacity, or perhaps even unresolved design issues. Over the ensuing 7 years, the factories of Otto Melara methodically, almost painstakingly, assembled machine after machine. By 2002, all 200 tanks of the initial order were finally complete, delivered to the waiting brigades of the Italian military. With the last vehicle rolled off the line, the production facilities fell silent, the vast assembly halls echoing with an emptiness that spoke volumes. The project, after years of anticipation and effort, had reached its quiet conclusion. 200 tanks, by the standards of serious armored powers, represent a rather modest fleet. To put this into perspective, at that very moment, Germany commanded a formidable force of more than 2,000 Leopards across various configurations. The United States Army, meanwhile, operated thousands of Abrams main battle tanks, a staggering testament to its armored might. Italy, with its mere 200 Arietes, appeared conspicuously understated against such imposing backdrops. This limited inventory immediately constrained its capacity for significant power projection on the global stage, raising questions about its strategic relevance in an increasingly complex world. Yet, for a nation that, barely half a century prior, had been expressly forbidden from constructing its own tanks due to post-World War II restrictions, Even this seemingly modest quantity represented a profound national achievement. It was a symbol of renewed sovereignty, a testament to Italy's determination to rebuild its industrial capabilities and reclaim its place among the technologically advanced nations. The Ariete, despite its limited numbers, embodied this hard-won independence. The most persistent, and indeed the most agonizing question surrounding the Ariete remained its complete and utter lack of combat experience. A tank might boast impressive specifications on paper, excel in rigorous testing on the proving grounds, and project an undeniable aura of menace during military parades. But until it has been truly tested in the brutal crucible of actual warfare, its genuine worth, its true capabilities, remain shrouded in doubt. The Ariete possessed no such history. This critical absence haunted the tank, an unspoken curse that repelled potential buyers in the fiercely competitive international market. Its reputation, however formidable on paper, lacked the ultimate validation of battle. A glimmer of hope, a chance to at least partially rectify this glaring deficiency, emerged in 2004. Several Ariete tanks were deployed to Iraq, a region then embroiled in a complex and volatile conflict. This was not, however, a full-scale combat operation in the traditional sense. It was more akin to an extended field deployment, a rigorous proving ground designed to test the tanks under conditions as close to actual combat as possible. Prior to their dispatch, these machines underwent extensive and critical preparation. Elements of appliqué armor were meticulously fitted to the frontal and side sections of the hull, significantly enhancing their protection against the pervasive threats of shaped-charge munitions and improvised explosive devices. These crude yet devastating weapons had by then become the relentless scourge of coalition forces operating across Iraq. Italian tank crews were finally granted the opportunity to truly put their machines through their paces, amidst the searing heat, the choking dust, and the constant insidious threat of attack that defined the Iraqi theater. But despite this invaluable exposure, the Ariete never truly received its full baptism of fire. It navigated the treacherous landscapes, it endured the harsh environment, but the decisive, reputation-making engagement, the one moment that would forever define its combat readiness, never materialized. The Ariete, born from national ambition and constrained by market realities, remained a paradox, a modern main battle tank, built to fight, yet forever shadowed by the battles it never truly joined. Its journey from drawing board to the quiet halls of service, marked by both triumph and profound disappointment, underscores the brutal truths of military innovation and the unforgiving nature of the global arms trade. The machines returned, pristine, unblemished by the fire of any adversary. Not a single scratch marred their formidable hulls. Yet, within the quiet corridors of power, a profound question lingered, an unspoken doubt about the true combat readiness of Italy's sole main battle tank. Meanwhile, in the strategic war rooms of the Italian army, a stark realization began to dawn. The foundational design of the Ariete, conceived in the 1980s, was rapidly approaching obsolescence. The world, a relentless forge of innovation, refused to stand still. Rival powers unveiled new modifications of their armored behemoths, each iteration boasting thicker, more advanced composite armor, increasingly sophisticated digital electronics, and weapon systems of unparalleled lethality. Italy faced a critical juncture. Urgent action was imperative to prevent its singular main battle tank from transforming into a museum piece before its time. The strategic implications of falling behind were immense, threatening to erode the nation's defensive posture and international standing. By 2002, as the very last production Ariete rolled silently from the factory gates, Italian military strategists were already deep in discussions, meticulously outlining plans for a comprehensive, deep modernization. It was a paradox. The end of one era, the urgent beginning of another. That same year, at a prestigious international armaments exhibition, the public caught its first glimpse of the proposed future. A project, designated Ariete II, also known as Mark II, promised to redefine Italian armored warfare. The ambitions were truly breathtaking. The Italians weren't merely planning to patch up an aging warhorse. Their vision was nothing short of creating a new generation tank built upon the sturdy, proven foundation of the existing platform. The sheer scope of the planned enhancements was astonishing. Foremost among these was a radical engine upgrade. Engineers intended to replace the existing power plant with a significantly more potent 1,600 horsepower unit, a substantial leap from the previous 1,300. This additional 300 horsepower would dramatically elevate the tank's power-to-weight ratio, translating into superior acceleration, enhanced maneuverability across battlefields, and an improved ability to conquer the most challenging terrains. Imagine the speed to cross an exposed plain, the agility to navigate urban labyrinths. The suspension system, too, was slated for a complete overhaul. A cutting-edge hydro-pneumatic system was proposed, promising an exceptionally smoother ride over rugged landscapes. Crucially, it would allow the tank's ground clearance to be adjusted dynamically, adapting to the specific demands of any combat scenario. This was not merely a comfort feature, it was a tactical advantage. At the time, such advanced suspensions were reserved for only the most elite machines, notably the Japanese Type 90 and the formidable Swedish Stridsvagn 122, placing the Ariete II in an exclusive club. The tank's offensive capabilities also faced a profound transformation. The main gun's barrel was to be extended to 55 calibers. This seemingly simple modification held immense implications. A significant increase in the shell's muzzle velocity, directly translating to superior armor penetration across all combat ranges. A longer barrel meant more time for the propellant gases to work their devastating magic, imparting greater kinetic energy to every round fired. 55 caliber long-barreled cannons represented the cutting edge of global tank design. Germany had already integrated such formidable weapons into the latest modifications of its Leopard 2, and Italy was determined not to be left behind in this critical technological race. The fire control system was earmarked for a complete redesign. The Ariete II would be equipped with the most advanced electronics, featuring vastly improved thermal imaging sights and sophisticated digital data processing systems. This meant faster target acquisition, higher first-shot kill probability, and the ability to operate with lethal precision day or night through any weather. The tank's brain was about to undergo a profound evolution. But perhaps the most revolutionary change, a true paradigm shift, was the planned installation of an automatic loader. This ingenious mechanism, capable of feeding shells into the gun's breech without human intervention, would eliminate the need for a dedicated loader, reducing the tank's crew from 4 to just 3 personnel. A smaller crew held cascading benefits. With one less human requiring space and protection, the armored volume of the turret could be significantly reduced. This, in turn, promised a more compact and lighter tank, presenting a smaller target profile on the battlefield, and enhancing both its strategic mobility and operational agility. This holistic approach, transforming every critical system from power to precision, was Italy's ambitious answer to the unspoken doubts of the past. It was a declaration that the Ariete would not merely survive, but thrive, ready to face the complexities of 21st century warfare, finally proving its true mettle on the global stage. The choice was stark: either to forge a tank with a smaller, more agile profile, or to dedicate the newfound space to an impenetrable layer of additional armor protection. This dilemma, rooted in the very architecture of the main battle tank, had long divided the world's military engineers. For decades, Soviet and later Russian designers embraced automatic loaders in their tanks, a technological leap first implemented in the 1960s. This innovation eliminated the need for a human loader, streamlining the crew and potentially reducing the turret's size. Yet, across the Western Alliance, this solution was met with profound skepticism, an enduring preference for the reliability and adaptability of a live crew member prevailing. The human element, it was argued, offered an irreplaceable advantage in the chaotic crucible of combat. But then, a shift. The Italians, it seemed, were prepared to shatter this deeply ingrained stereotype. They envisioned a path their NATO allies considered far too audacious, too fraught with inherent risk. Their proposed Ariete II represented a bold departure, a challenge to established doctrine. This was not merely about internal mechanics, it was a statement of intent, a declaration of a willingness to innovate where others hesitated. Beyond the revolutionary autoloader, the Ariete II was conceived with an even more sophisticated layer of defense, several distinct kits of modular, add-on armor. This innovative approach allowed for the vehicle's protection level to be meticulously customized, adapting to the precise demands of any given combat scenario. Imagine a chameleon of steel, transforming its skin to match the threat. A light armor package would optimize the tank for extended reconnaissance missions or swift patrols, prioritizing speed and maneuverability. A medium configuration stood ready for the brutal realities of urban warfare, where threats could emerge from any direction at any moment. And then, the heavy kit, a formidable shield designed for direct, head-on engagements against the most formidable enemy tanks, turning the Ariete II into an unyielding fortress. This concept of flexible, adaptable armor protection gained significant traction in the early 2000s. The Italians, ever keen to remain at the forefront of military technology, were determined not to be left behind by these global trends. The initial order for these modernized machines was ambitious, a staggering 300 units. For a fleeting moment, it appeared the project had finally found its footing. All the stars seemed to align. The Italian army desperately needed a contemporary tank, one capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with the best in the world. The nation's industrial base was poised, ready to translate blueprints into hardened steel. And the technical solutions proposed, from the autoloader to the modular armor, were not mere flights of fancy. They appeared entirely realistic, entirely achievable. A new era for Italian armor seemed within reach. Then, the axe fell again. Not a physical weapon, but a budgetary one. A cruel, invisible blade that had already, on more than one occasion, carved deep scars into Italy's armored dreams. The nation was navigating treacherous economic waters. National debt swelled, a relentless tide threatening to engulf public finances. In such lean times, military expenditure invariably became the first target, the most convenient line item for politicians to slash at the slightest opportunity. The initial order for 300 Macchiality, the entire Ariete II development program, was cancelled outright. All the meticulous blueprints, the detailed mock-ups, the years of dedicated research and development, every single achievement was unceremoniously relegated to the shelf, gathering dust. The Italian army was left with a mere 200 of the original, unmodernized Ariete tanks, machines that, with each passing year, fell further and further behind their foreign counterparts, slowly fading into obsolescence. More than a decade of silence descended, a long, quiet interlude where the very notion of Italian tank modernization seemed to vanish. Then, in 2018, a flicker of life. Information surfaced, hinting at the commencement of new design work on yet another version of the Ariete. Hope, long dormant, began to stir. The estimated cost of this revived program was staggering, approximately €1 billion, a truly colossal sum for Italy's military budget. The base version of the Ariete tank, at that time, commanded a price tag of $6.7 million. The projected cost for this new, extensively modified variant was estimated to soar to roughly $11 million per unit. And it was this astronomical price, perhaps more than any other factor, that became the Ariete's enduring curse on the international market. $11 million for a tank that had never once engaged in full-scale combat operations was an offer easily, almost instinctively, declined by potential foreign buyers. For a comparable investment, a nation could acquire a German Leopard 2, a battle-proven Titan that had endured dozens of conflicts, demonstrating its unwavering reliability across the most diverse and demanding conditions imaginable. Or, one could opt for the American Abrams, a machine renowned globally for its legendary survivability on the battlefield, a symbol of brute force and resilience. And for those nations operating with more constrained budgets, there remained the ever-present, time-tested, and far more accessible armored vehicles of Russian manufacture. The dream of an advanced, adaptable Italian tank, born from a desire to innovate and challenge conventions, found itself trapped between the relentless march of technological progress and the unforgiving calculus of global economics. A vision of cutting-edge defense ultimately priced out of existence, leaving behind a legacy of what might have been. The Ariete, a name whispered across battlefields, yet its story remains singularly Italian. For nearly 4 decades, this formidable machine became the embodiment of a nation's ambition, a testament to engineering prowess forged in the heart of Italy itself. Untold fortunes, tireless effort, and the brightest minds converged, meticulously crafting a tank designed to stand among the world's elite. Each rivet, every circuit, echoed the profound investment, the unyielding belief in a domestic triumph. Yet, despite this monumental dedication, this singular vision, the Ariete never once breached the threshold of international markets. It remained a sentinel for one country alone, a powerful, sophisticated Titan forever bound by the very borders it was built to protect. A symbol of immense national capability, yes, but also a silent reminder of a global reach that never quite materialized.